Let's talk about the boys. So the boys. So one thing that you're probably going to miss having transitioned out, or you're probably going to notice once you transition out, is that you're going to be separated from your biggest peer group, and that's your friends. That's because depending on how long you've been in the service, you probably have made your friends over that however many years. And so transitioning out is probably going to be a little bit scary for you. Now, I'm not saying you're some kind of a wimp and that you're going to pussy out when you get to the outside world, but a lot of times what tends to happen with people, and I mean people, including yourself, especially if you've been in the service, is that you get used to a certain kind of energy and a certain kind of behavior from the friends that you have, especially in the military. And the thing about people in the military is that you're particularly distinct and different from people in the civilian world. Your humor is like way far more out there. The things that you think about, the things that you talk about, all those things are going to be way different than what you're probably normally used to in your day-to-day with civilians. I mean, you probably noticed that with your friends and your family who have been out and who are not in the service and who are never in the military and who don't know what that life is like. And so it's always going to be tricky transitioning out or being out into the civilian world and trying to navigate that space and making friends out in the civilian world. Now, while it may seem tricky, you actually have a very solid indicator of the kind of people that you want to associate with and the friends that you've already had. Now, you probably can kind of piece together a few of the qualities that you enjoy, and that's a sense of loyalty, a sense of camaraderie. There's camaraderie that you probably find in the friends that you had when you were back in, and you want to try and find a lot of those similar things in the people that you have on the outside. You want to be careful though, because just because you're at a particular job, and you might find people that are sort of on that same wavelength. That might not necessarily be the case that they're the best kind of company for you. The thing about the military is there is somewhat of there's a structure for forward progression in your career, and there is somewhat of a focus on becoming better in your fitness and your health. I mean, it's a microcosm of the rest of the world, so that's not necessarily the case in all things. But there definitely, at least in my experience, was more of a focus on bettering yourself when you were in. And so you want to try and find a similar thing on the outside. Because I can definitely say that when I was on the outside, when I was working some of the first few normal standard civilian 9-to-5s that I got, while I found some of the elements of the humor and the trains of thought that people had while I was in the military with the people that I was now associating with on the outside, they weren't necessarily concerned about career progression, or they weren't concerned about their fitness or any of those things. And so you want to find those qualities in the people that you associate with on the outside. It's going to take some time, but it'll make it easier for you if you do try and pay attention to those particular details. One way that I've found helps in this particular case is, and I'm not, by no means is this an endorsement of this particular thing, is I've started to do jiu-jitsu. And the thing about jiu-jitsu is it's a combative. You can get into boxing, you can get into Muay Thai, you can get into any other martial arts, and that might be an option for you because there is a very obvious focus on progression through your, let's say, athletic career, doing jiu-jitsu as a grappler or wrestling or Muay Thai or boxing or whatever you decide to get into. And this is just a small sample or an example of what you can get into. You can get into freaking knitting for all I care if you find those qualities in other people. The reason why I say jiu-jitsu is because since it is a combative, if you were in the more combatives focused parts of the military, it'll be a lot easier for you to kind of get into that same headspace and the same level of focus, especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu. The cool thing about jiu-jitsu is that while you can certainly spar in other martial arts, and you can certainly have a little bit of contact in those particular sports, the thing about jiu-jitsu is you can constantly train physically and get physically involved with people. And something about that physical involvement with people does create a stronger bond between you and the people that you associate with at your studio or your dojo or whatever your instructor decides to call that space. So try martial art out as a means of creating that same friend group that you had in the outside. Again, it's by no means a direct endorsement of that particular set of pursuits, but it's certainly something that you can do and try if it's your thing. Again, maybe if you want to get into maybe if you're gonna get into competitive shooting, you might find a lot of people, actually you'll find a lot of people probably from prior military who do that. You can also get into fitness, like you can get into CrossFit, you can get into powerlifting and all those things. Something that demands a particular focus on forward progression and also challenges you the way that the military does to really reach for and attain your best self are probably the best ways and the best places that you can go to create the kind of friendships that you had in the military. Again, every experience is unique to you, so that might not necessarily always be the case. And I'm always more than welcome to have a conversation with you if you want to discuss what actually is better for you. It's cool to brainstorm, and so if we have a conversation and we can think of maybe you're into knitting, or maybe you're into canoeing or kayaking, whatever it is, whatever particular pursuit that you happen to be into, find something that resonates with you. And the cool thing about transitioning into the civilian sector is that now you have an abundance of options, whereas in the military, you're kind of stuck wherever you are in your career field, at your job, and those are the friends that you make. And there's sort of a focus and loyalty in just that particular space. You don't really deviate so much. I mean, unless you're in a particular shop that has different interacting jobs, then you'll probably associate with more different kinds of people. But oftentimes, if you're one particular MOS, one particular career field, you're just kind of stick with people who are in that particular MOS, the job field, or what have you. Once again, if you have any questions, if you want to have a discussion about what you might actually be into, if you just want to sort of spitball because you kind of have an idea of what it is that you want to try and do, but you're kind of afraid or you're not really sure what it is that you are absolutely super into, and you need someone to just bounce some ideas off of, feel free to reach out to me. You can go ahead and shoot me a DM, or you can go and leave a comment down below, and I'd like to have a conversation with you. I like doing these on video because then we can have a more direct discussion, or we can get on a call if that makes it easier for you. I hope that was helpful. Once again, it's your boy Mark, and have a great day.